We're going to go over the functional range conditioning for the wrist today. So we'll show you how that's going to be done. So what you want to do, there's a few variations that you can use. The one is going to be on the ground is the first one. So basically you would have your hands flat on the ground and get some good flexion in the wrist while keeping the fingers straight. You never want those fingers to kind of curl up. That means you're going too far into the flexion. So you can kind of see here the wrist going. If I go too far, those fingers start to creep up. So I want to kind of come out of it and just stay in a nice happy stretch with the wrist. So another way you can stretch the wrist is by having the fingers away backwards here, and then you would get some good wrist flexion here. Again, you don't want to go too far where those fingers bend. You want to have the fingers nice and straight. And then the last variation that we're going to show is the hand out in front of you. You can either have them facing up or down. And again, it's very important for the fingers not to flex through the fingers, but more on the palm, keeping the fingers straight and getting that good wrist flexion. So we'll set the time for you on that stretch. Once we are done with the stretch duration, then we'll have you perform the pails, which is pushing into the ground or pushing against the hand. But I'll just use the ground as a reference here. So what we'll do is we'll just push driving down through the palm and thinking about that wrist really making the pails work, driving into the ground. And again, we'll set the timer for you on that one. Once the pails is done, then we're gonna go ahead and perform the rails. And the rails, we're gonna think about trying to lift the palm and make the wrist turn this way while we go deeper into the stretch. Again, keeping the fingers straight, not letting those guys curl up. And then you would be done with the pails and the rails. To perform the pails and the rails in this position versus the ground, again, you would have good flexion on the wrist and driving against this hand into it. Really thinking about trying to turn the wrist, keeping the fingers straight and driving through the pails. And then the rails, we would just go ahead and let go and try to pull that palm and have that wrist rotate back towards your body. And again, you would hold that as long as you have to for the rails. All right, here are the wrist holds. The wrist holds on the ground. What we would do, we would find that good flexion piece, and then we're gonna go ahead and squeeze, and we're gonna roll back until we feel the hand come off the ground, but we're keeping good straight arm flexion. We're thinking about trying to bend that hand back towards the body. Again, a lot of the rotation is going to come from that wrist, and just hold there as long as necessary. And that would be the hold from the ground. If we're doing this from this position here, we're going to go ahead and find that nice happy stretch, and then we're going to hold while keeping the flexion back. And that should do for the holds on the wrist FRC.